Welcome to the recess meeting of your Board of Commissioners. Today is June 28th. It's a little after 1. Today, we have called this to cover a couple of topics. With that, we should all have a copy of our agenda. At this point, we would accept a motion to approve that agenda. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. We have a approved agenda. Our presentation today is by Chris Elliott, our Safety and Risk Manager. Mr. Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Honorable Board of Commissioners. We are here today in reference to the binding of insurance for our law enforcement liability and our excess liability coverage. And we've got those in. The two insurance companies that you have before you, Kinsale and Indian Harbor. Kinsale provided a proposed premium for law enforcement liability coverage for $210,000, $546.30. We also have a law enforcement liability excess portion that will cover $1 million coverage for $141,000, $359.99. So just to break that down, last year the $3 million of coverage equaled $161,054. This year, the $3 million worth of coverage will cost $351,906.29, which is a difference of $190,852.29. Last year's premium included a $10,000 deductible per claim. The concerning part about this year is that this year's premium has went to $200,000 per claim.
Deductible.
The deductible. Yes, sir. Right now, that's what we have. Those are the best prices that came in. We had some that were in excess, a little stouter than this, including deductibles that were higher. This is the lowest deductible that we could get.
What is that total again, the total increase?
It is $190,852.29.
Thank you. You ready for questions?
Yes, sir.
Very good. Commissioner Barrow?
Thank you, Mr. Elliott. I appreciate your presentation today. I just had a couple questions for the benefit of the public here. So could you just briefly explain what sort of situation we would be in if we did not have any coverage for the jail?
Yes, sir. Commissioner Barrow, we have done an extraordinary job on our other lines of insurance, and through the quotes that we've received, our insurance premiums would have went down actually this year. I think that is the reason why Travelers decided to keep us on their insurance coverage for the rest of our coverage for the county government, because we've done such a good job on the other sides of the insurance. So we have saved a dramatic amount of money on our premiums and everything this year.
Sorry, let me rephrase the question. Could you explain what would happen if we didn't have coverage for the jail? I've had people say, well, what's the big deal? Why do you need coverage? Could you explain what that could cost the county if we did not have coverage for the jail?
It would be, and this coverage is not just for the jail. The law enforcement liability covers every deputy that is under the tutelage of the sheriff, every car, every person that's out there, the ability to wrongful arrest, wrongful attainment, anything that is an action under the color of the sheriff that could end up being a liability would cost the county out of our general fund, which would absolutely raise the tax rate.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Another question. So we were talking about the $200,000 deductible. That's a substantial increase from the $10,000 deductible we had previously. My understanding is that once we file a deductible the litigation's taken over by the insurance company. Since the deductible is so high, what will be our process going forward to try to avoid having to pay a $200,000 deductible?
So that's another issue where in-house departments would have to bear the load. So Mr. Albright's office, the county attorney, would have to litigate these cases up to the $200,000 limit. So we would be in it full, and it'd be a toll on Mr. Albright's office, but we would be in it up to the $200,000 deductible limit.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions, gentlemen?
Chris, we had how many companies submit proposals?
We had 5 companies submit proposals to our TPA, Marsh McLennan. One of them was fairly close, but the next close one that we had a $250,000 deductible, and the premium was close to $70,000 higher, so it wasn't even in the ballpark. The very first quote that we received was from Kinsale, and they ended up being the lowest. So.
Okay. This insurance that we're dealing with through these 2 companies is actually for any incident involving the sheriff's department. Is that correct? Okay. In the jail, outside the jail?
Correct.
Okay. Deer strikes?
So our auto portion covers the deer strikes and the auto policy, but yes, sir, it covers every aspect of being a deputy for the sheriff.
The auto policy is still under Travelers, is that correct?
That is correct. Now, the premium went up on that, but it went from a $1,000 deductible to a $2,500 deductible, which we're still, that's a pretty considerable increase also.
Is that something that we're seeing across the board with insurance companies and law enforcement activities, or is that directly related to something we could do or couldn't do different?
That's across the board. A lot of the states, a lot of different counties and municipalities are seeing the same, but I can't speak that would be associated directly to what we're talking about today.
Commissioner Richardson?
Yeah, thank you, Chris. Appreciate the information. I know you required a lot of legwork to collect all of that. The premiums, the deductibles, they are what they are. Is there something that we could do within the county, process or procedure-wise, to get these premiums back to the level that we've enjoyed in previous years?
So Travelers has indicated to us that they would like to see 12 months to 24 months of, improvements, and that they would be more than willing to want to take us back. But we have to do better with the incidents that are happening currently at our jail. We have to make sure that we're not a high claimant. It's just like your homeowner's insurance and your car insurance at home. If you go and you get in 8 wrecks, they're probably going to drop you. If you're letting your house go, then they're probably going to deny you homeowner's insurance. So we have an onus to make sure that we're communicating with each other and we're doing what we need to do. And then once they see that, they would possibly come back.
Have the companies defined what they want to see?
So that's a good question. So myself and the sheriff have talked about meeting with the insurance company once we bind coverage, sitting down, getting in the same room and talking about exactly what they need going further. He has opened up his office and he sent me multiple requests to have that meeting with them. He's made some changes as far as some questionnaires for local law enforcement agencies to do before they bring people into our jail. And we're trying to work together to make sure that everything the insurance company would need is done.
So those potential savings are in the future. What we have to consider are the numbers that you've provided today for our coverage for 2024-25.
That is correct, Mr. Commissioner.
Yeah, Commissioner Barrow?
I just had one more follow-up because in a previous meeting, I think we had made another statement, so I just want to see how these coincide. So you had mentioned being a high claimant, but previously we had discussed a communication issue. So is it a combination of things? Is it the high claims? What is the insurance company telling you?
So the high claims drive insurance premiums and coverage. Once an insurance company reaches out and gives you a letter stating that they might not renew coverage, which is by law, they have to give you 90 days. They want to see some type of improvement. And they definitely want to see whatever their problem is, they want to see some type of improvement before they get to the time where they're going to absolutely tell you, no, we're going to release you or we're going to keep you. In the span of that time, there were some issues that came out publicly that the insurance company found out about again. It was kind of the nail in the coffin. They was like, no, we're not seeing that improvement. And they cut us loose. So it's the communication.
Forward focused is, if we're looking to get this back down, is it a communication issue we need to work on, or is it the claim issue, or is it a combination thereof?
It's a combination.
Thank you, Mr. Elliott.
Yes, sir.
Just for clarification, because it's kind of getting mixed together as far as the number of claims and the communication, the actual dropping of coverage had to do with failing to file claims or report claims. Is that right?
That is correct. That is correct. Filing to the insurance company without them having to find out from the news agency, finding out from my office and the sheriff's department. That was the crux of the issue.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
With this coming in so late, it's after the budget has been set. It's clearly we've got some cost mitigation to do. Spoke with the sheriff last week. We didn't know even as late as last Friday what this cost was going to be. We've reached out to the sheriff this week, and I'll ask you, if you don't mind, Mr. Sheriff, what can you do to help us, to help the taxpayer mitigate these additional costs?
Well, first of all, I just want to say is Chris is exactly right. We do need to have this sit down so we understand exactly what they expect. And I'm not getting on Chris on this. I want to explain something. In 25 years, I've never had that. So I'm with Chris. I want to get it right. I want to see our premiums go back down, and I'm 100% to work with our insurance carrier and work with he being our liaison to the insurance company to make sure it happens. So that's good, and my staff. But as far as the amount of monies, the only reserves that I see in our revenues is our canteen account. We're very familiar with that. That's money years ago was set aside for money to be in the benefit of the inmates. My understanding, last time I checked, about a week ago, we have about $453,000 in there. It may have been some been encumbered, I don't know. But the point is whatever the difference is in our normal premium, I think we make up that difference, whatever that was, what,
$190,000?
Yeah, I would be 100% supportive of that, to make this work and to move forward and to do what we're trying to accomplish, which is to move in the right direction and get that premium back down. And I liked hearing what you just said. Let them see what we're doing. Let them see we're working together to do the right things and make it good.
Thank you, Sheriff. Any questions? We've got the $190,000. If that comes out of that, we still have the looming cost of that $200,000 deductible that's sitting out there. And based in prior history, how many claims on average have you seen per year, Chris, in the last 3 or 4 years?
So I don't want to speak out of terms, but
Thanks, Sheriff.
right now, I believe Clyde has about 4 or 5 open currently. There's
But those would
somewhere
be
about
under the
4.
old- They would be under the
They're under the
$10,000.
10,000, but what I'm
What-
saying,
but what I'm
that's
looking-
just in the last year and a half. So if we were to have a year like that again, that would be over $1 million. So
That's what I'm after. That's what I'm trying to understand is there an aggregate cap on this? If we have a $200,000 per deductible, is that with a maximum of two claims or 3 claims, or is there no limit?
that is per claim.
Okay. Any questions?
So, yes, sir, I do.
Okay.
I know it might be a question. In all fairness, there's no way we can predict how many people may attempt to commit suicide in the jail or have some medical emergency in the jail. Is that correct? I mean,
That's correct.
we can do our checks, we can look at them, but at the end of the day, we can still have an incident, right? So looking back on the previous history to see how many we've had per year may or may not be an adequate indication of what we have going forward. Is that a fair statement?
That is a fair statement.
And so therefore, we did not, I realize that there is a significant increase in the deductible per incident. But I'm not sure that we've ever in the past budgeted for a set amount of incidences in the jail, even at the $10,000 deductible, have we?
No, we've got a fund that we carry that it's fairly adequate, but nothing to this extent, no, sir.
So next year, I'm assuming that this will be a budget issue, the additional cost of this insurance, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then what is your suggestion on, I realize that we have to know that this is out there because it's significantly more than $10,000. But as the county manager, what is your recommendations on how we handle the possibility of having future claims?
Well, we'll have to be proactive and go back and look at the past history and then budget for what we estimate the deductibles will be. If we go back and see there's 5 a year, 6 year, 3 year average over a whatever period, a 10-year period, then that's what the recommendation would be to you all. And if it exceeds that, then we'll have to come back to you all to use fund balance to cover that.
But and I'm not sure, the sheriff can correct me if I'm wrong, but if there's a $400,000 balance in the canteen fund, and we're going to take $190,000 of it to pay the additional cost of the insurance, there's only 2 funds that he has at his disposal. One would be the federal forfeiture money, and I know that's limited as to what it can be used for, in the canteen money. So based on his numbers that he just gave us, the canteen fund would cover 1 incident under the new insurance, the deductible necessarily, but I don't know that he has the monies in any other funds to cover any other deductibles. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
Any other questions, gentlemen? Yeah, Sheriff? No, go ahead, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Lance, while they're communicating,
Sure.
I mean, $200,000 is roughly a fifth of a penny on the tax rate based on the new values, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
Listen to what you gentlemen said, and I want to go back to just a few comments at our last meeting. As we talk about being proactive, we talk about doing good things and changes, maybe some of the ways we do things. And I brought this up, and Charlie, I met with you and county manager about medical coverage. You know, we've got the grant for inmate medical coverage for substance use disorder, which is going to help us, in my projection, to stabilize some of our inmates coming in that do have some substance issues. But the medical staff is a key issue, and I know it's always been, Don, we talked about this. It is important, and I know you guys support it. I know you do. But I asked how much it would cost to add to have a 24/7 coverage, and let me explain myself. I have a representative from Southern Health Partners here to speak on this, but we've been having some serious discussion about what can we do different, better, and one of the best things that we can do for persons coming out of jail is not only from the arresting officer to pay attention, and we've already briefed the chiefs about this, so that's important because this is all about tax dollars, is what can we do once that person interfaces with our jail staff? Instead of a jail detention officer doing a medical screen, mental health screen questionnaire, is have someone who is a trained medical professional doing that on the front end. Anytime someone comes to our jail, they get screened. I asked about another thing. What about an EKG system there? It's not very expensive, $2,000 or $3,000. But $2,000 or $3,000 may save a life and tell us something on the front end. So if we do have an emergency, we do an EKG. If we need to send that person back to the hospital to be checked out, we get it on the front end instead of catching on the back end, which I think we're talking about right now. So I'm going to also ask, kind of in this discussion, if we want to change the way we're doing business, let's consider providing the best level of care we can with what we can afford, but keeping in mind that a 24/7 coverage is going to be better for medical response and medical care of our inmates. And also, it spreads a distribution when it comes to applying the medical assisted treatment for the inmates. Instead of one nurse covering 190 inmates, you've got multiple nurses covering it over a period of that 24-hour period. So I just think it's a better. The cost of that was about $87,000.
We'll take that up.
Oh, yes, sir.
That's the next
And
item on our agenda.
Yeah, and I apologize for jumping, but I think,
Okay.
listen to the being proactive, I think it's a good direction to make sure our facility is safer.
Right.
And I can't thank Don enough for bringing that to your attention 2 years
sir.
ago. So I'm glad you brought it to us now.
Thank you, Mr. Berger.
So,
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
No, I'll just wait. I was going to comment on, but we'll wait till we get to the nurse issue.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Ms. Powell. Thank you, Jim.
Any further discussion, gentlemen? So the motion that we need today,
I just think one other thing needs to be clarified for the public. This canteen fund, I know we kind of discovered that it had a lot of money in it within the past year, I believe is what it was. So people at home, that's not just from the sale of candy bars and Coca-Cola. The inmates get tablets when they check in. And on those tablets, they have video games, they have movies, they have text messages and video messages, and those are things that the sheriff allows them to have access to. That's the counties make that decision. Not the counties as in the commissioners, but the counties as in each county sheriff decides what is available to the inmates. And as a result of that availability, then that money has grown substantially over the past, I'd say, 5 or 6 years is how long that contract has been in existence. And you know, there's internet access, there's a number of amenities there in the jail that's available to the inmates. And that's the sheriff's decision, and that's how that fund has grown so much.
but those are fees that are charged to the inmate, not to the taxpayer, right?
You're right, but not every county offers those same things. Some just do educational things, some just do religious, I believe, but
Okay.
they've got a number of amenities here.
All right.
Thank you.
So we're approving, the motion you're asking for today is to approve the whole insurance proposal, which is a program total of 1.17,481.28.
That is correct, Mr. Chairman.
And the sheriff has offered today to cover that 190,852.29 out of the canteen fund.
Yes,
Sure. And one other thing, just for clarification, now the fine and forfeiture money is money that is restricted. The canteen fund is something that we in the past have elected to restrict. But some counties transfer that money directly into the general fund, I believe. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve presentation as presented by Mr. Elliott,
With the,
with the funding provided through the canteen fund as suggested by the sheriff.
very good. Do we have a second? Second. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thanks, Sheriff. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you,
We
Honorable
appreciate your
Commissioners. Thank
diligence on this.
I really thank you for everything you've done. I mean, the circumstances you were given to pull this off, you did a tremendous job. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you.
John. Our next issue to discuss is the sheriff's funding request dated June 12th. After some of these things have come to light, the sheriff, along with Commissioner Powell and myself and the county manager and his department, have looked at this option. Would you like to present it, Sheriff?
Mr. Hoff, you've got the letter. If you just want to kind of
Let Don
paraphrase.
present it.
Do you have the letter?
You want to present it? Yeah, let me present it. All right. Yeah, we'll read it. We'll just read the letter.
So
A couple years ago, the sheriff and I had a conversation after an incident in the jail where I offered to come to the commissioners and ask for a couple of nurses. It was my idea at that time, after talking with the sheriff, that they could more adequately assess the condition of inmates being checked into the jail, but they could also do the checks and maybe pick up on some things that were going on with inmates while they were incarcerated. After having this conversation at the budget session this year, the sheriff has written a letter to the board that says, after listening to the comments, questions, and concerns of our Board of Commissioners last week at the Rockingham County Budget Workshop, I contacted my representative with our inmate medical provider, Southern Health Partners. I've always tried to be proactive in all that I do in my position as sheriff, and I realize that the highest liability that we have in our county is our local jail. Working with our Board of Commissioners, our county manager, and our county risk and safety manager, I would like to make a proposal that we increase our inmate medical coverage in our jail to 24/7. That's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. In order to ensure that all of our inmates are provided real-time medical care, currently we contract with Southern Health Partners to provide 102 hours of on-site medical staff coverage in the jail per week. The sheriff's requesting an increase of coverage to 170 hours per week. This would allow for 24/7 medical screening, support for new inmate arrivals at the initial point of contact following arrest, to aid in the medical assisted treatment pilot program to provide medical and mental health support for persons with substance use disorders and real-time medical care, and support of our inmates throughout the course of each day. This approach has a cost factor, but weighing the risk and liability to the county, I think this is our best option, and the options we have to reduce the chances of someone with medical, mental health, or substance use disorders not necessarily receiving care and supervision from a medical standpoint. In order to achieve this proposed goal of 24/7 medical coverage in the jail, we are requesting an additional $87,651.20 be added to the already approved budget for the upcoming fiscal year. There may be a possibility that providing 24/7 on-site medical care at our local jail could possibly reduce our insurance rates, considering the obvious risk and liabilities that are present while managing a detention facility in this day and time. I appreciate any and all consideration regarding this request. I have asked the representatives from our on-site medical provider to be available for your questions from county representatives should that be necessary. Sincerely, Sheriff Sam Page.
Now, Mr. Chair, let me add to that. So the request is $87,651.20.
Additional.
If you remember that you all budgeted $75,712 in your budget for LPN, so this program would be a total of roughly $164,000.
Okay, so that's right. This would eliminate the $75,000 for an LPN and would replace it with a contract with Southern Health Partners in the total of $164,000 roughly, which is $87,651.20 additional.
Yes, sir.
Very good, thank you. Well, let me ask you, since you've brought your rep from Southern Health, you've heard some of the instances, some of the claims we've had. Is this something that you can see would be of a benefit to the community and to the county? Please.
Just to introduce myself, my name is Bridget Woodcock, and I am a regional manager for Southern Health Partners, and Rockingham County is one of my jails. I just wanted to emphasize that, yes, I think it could be beneficial for you. Acuity in our jails has become essentially more prevalent than what they have been back in 2000. Drug use has become more of an issue where it has become not just an acute need, it's a chronic need to be handled appropriately. Of course, a lot of our residents in our facilities now have also aged, so they don't have like the normal healthy lifestyle that they had when they were younger. They now have chronic issues such as high blood pressure, diabetes, and stuff like that, which require around-the-clock care. So when you only have someone there that's 12 hours a day, they're only there to maintain them for 12 hours a day. It's getting to the point where you have people that are having chest pains and stuff like that while nurses are not on site. And of course, they're trying to contact the nurse who's on call to triage the situation. And at that point, they're being sent out to the hospital because no one is there to obtain vital signs or anything along those lines.
Yes, ma'am. So, if we approve this, and I feel that we probably will, there'll be a nurse on site 24 hours a day.
Yes.
Who administers medication to the inmates?
At this point, it's our nurses.
It's the nurses.
Yes, sir.
And do they stay there to make sure that they take the medication?
Yes, we do what we call mouth checks. So they come up, we give them the medication, they're supposed to take the medication in front of us, and then at that point, we are checking their mouths before they leave us, and then they are to go back to their cells if that's the case.
And that would be because we don't want inmates hoarding up medication to be able to sell to other inmates or give
Correct.
to other inmates. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And that has been the practice this far, so this doesn't change anything other than if the medications are administered when a nurse is not on duty at the jail, then I'm assuming one of the jail personnel would have to do that.
Yes, usually that is someone specifically delegated by the jail itself on who's able to prescribe that or administer that, to be specific. Usually it is the shift captain or shift sergeant on that time that has been trained in that manner to do so.
Medication generally, and this is medication generally that is requested or prescribed is a better word, prescribed for inmates, one dosage of that generally would not cause a person to overdose if it were a medication that could.
It depends on the medication and the person's tolerance for that medication.
Do we have medication of that sort being dispensed in the jail at this
Not
time?
technically, no.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Sure. I had a citizen ask me a question, and I thought it was a good one, and since you're from Southern Health Partners and you guys work all over the state, you might be the person to ask, maybe not, but
Sure.
I know from coming out of the pandemic, 2020, 21, 22, across the whole population of the country, there was an increase in suicides. And someone asked me, they said, are we having more suicides here than we have across the state and other jails? Do you know, is there anything about Rockingham County Jail that says there are more suicides here than anywhere else in the state?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you very much.
It is pretty much the same across the board. It's just the matter is, it's not always being released. Yes,
Across the state?
yes.
Okay, thank you very much.
Any other questions, gentlemen? Yeah, Commissioner Richardson?
Actually, I have several general knowledge there. I'm assuming your company qualifies. You vet the staff there, but who monitors your staff when they're on duty?
So I would assume that would be the jail staff inside the facility because we are a contracted person within your facilities. So your site staff are watching with us and are supposed to be with us when we're doing med passes, when we're doing sick calls, and when we're interactions with the inmates.
Yes, supposed to be. I'm not questioning the competence of your staff, but they have to be there.
Yes, sir.
They have to be in the presence of the inmate to do their function.
Correct.
And that's where I think the jail staff would have to facilitate. Just out of curiosity, we've had a number of fatalities within our jail
yes.
in the recent years. Did we have medical staff, nursing staff on board at the time
Some of
these
the
occurred?
incidences happened when medical was not on site. And two of the instances that I am aware of happened when there were nursing staff on site, and they were notified when those patients were found in the process of or after the fact of the situation.
Yes. Is your staff normally qualified to make?
Yes, sir. We are supposed to be able to go in, assess the situation, take vital signs, figure out what's going on. If it's a situation where the inmate or a patient has done something to cause them harm to themselves, we are to initiate CPR. We are to initiate having EMS arrive on site so that we can get that transferred over to EMS so that we can move forward with what we have to do. There's documentation processes, of course, that I know you guys are aware of, but we also have to make sure that we follow specific protocol and procedure that we have regarding that.
Yeah, what are the mental health qualifications of your staff?
It is generalized mental health. We are all trained in some aspect of mental health while we are in school. Some go on and get their bachelor's or master's degree in those things, but it's not a qualification for people to have that as a nurse. We are expecting that with the mental health providers that we work with, they're the ones that we're supposed to be referring these people to make sure that those things are being addressed appropriately.
Everything you say, I'm telling you from being in a public school environment that my teachers, particularly the very young teachers there that teach in kindergarten and so forth, are able to do fairly accurate assessments of young people at that age. And so the interest here is I'm not looking for mental health therapy. It's identifying somebody that is likely to have a mental health issue.
Yes, Commissioner, sir. We do have policies and procedures in play to help our nurses who are not familiar, especially if they're newer to correctional type health for nursing care. We have policies and procedures in place along with forms that our nurses are required to fill out at the intakes to determine whether or not these people are suicidal or not.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yes, Commissioner Berger?
What type of liability coverage do y'all have as you're coming into the facilities?
It's followed under our Southern Health Partners, and through that, I'm not 100% sure who our liability insurance is, but we have that through our own company.
Make sure that before anything's done, that we get our county attorney to review whatever that agreement is, make sure that it's got some sort of indemnity language if necessary.
The current agreement does have indemnity language in it.
Okay, all right, thank you.
I just wanted to give a brief thing for you, just so that you can have an understanding where SHP is coming from. So Southern Health Partners has been contracted with your county since 2002. And over that time, we have had very little change in our nursing department. We've had only 3 nurses. 2 of them usually work the weekends, and then we have 1 that's usually working during the week, Monday through Friday. I feel that we do have a changeover coming up a little bit for us with the contract that's supposed to be signed for July 1, where we're going to have 2 full-time nurses during the week, Monday through Friday, and then only 1 on the weekends. I feel that will be helpful, and that could help with reducing some of the stress and anxiety that everyone is having in general regarding the situations that are in hand. However, we also feel that with the situation that everything's going on with Rockingham, it would be beneficial for you guys to go to 24-hour care. It would help reduce some of the additional stressors, and you'll constantly have someone on site and help with any assistance with your officers.
Commissioner Powell?
I have 2 questions. One, we're not a hospital in the jail. Okay?
No.
Make no mistake about that. We're not trying to make it a hospital.
No,
But
sir.
there are protocols that you use for different things that you may run up on. Like,
Correct.
for instance, it would be, I think I'm correct, what I'm hearing is your protocol, if you find someone down, potentially unconscious, we would Narcan that person irregardless of what the situation would be, right? Because it doesn't hurt them if they don't need it, but it certainly helps them if they do need it. Is that the general thinking?
That's general thinking, yes. That's not technically a policy we have in play, but it is something that we would assess to do depending on the situation. So if the person coming in is showing signs and having abdominal breathing, then yes, of course, we would throw Narcan. But giving Narcan for every single person who would possibly be down when it could be a cardiac arrest because they're an elder gentleman doesn't require them to always to have it. That requires the nurses to have an assessment and make a determination of what needs to be done at that time.
But there's going to be a section of time where there will be only 1 nurse there. Is that correct? So the coverage would be limited. So
if it was the full-time, if it was 24 hours, you would have a nurse from basically, I would say 5 p.m. until 7 o'clock the next morning, where it would just be 1 nurse, if it was a 24-hour situation. If it's with what we currently have, we would have a nurse from 5 to 7 that would just be by herself or himself.
So the jail staff, and Sheriff, you might be able to answer this, because the jail staff has to be instructed in some of this stuff because there may not be a nurse available or they may be tied up on something else. So is that one of the policies that if a person's down, we automatically?
Oh, if they're down, they're going to Narcan them.
Okay,
And
that's-
I was going to say something else. We also make sure that every one of the detention pod officers have Narcan on their pouches, so everyone has a supply. If somebody's down, they're going to Narcan them first.
Now, my last question, and Sheriff, you stay up here, stay. If I understand correctly, we're going to have 2 nurses Monday through Friday, so that'll be 24-hour coverage, one during the day.
That's just during the day.
So we won't
from-
have them during the night hours.
Correct.
Now, Sheriff, my question for you is what's your heaviest intake times? Is that during the night, during the day, on the weekends, or what? And if so, can we move this time to reflect that?
Back in the day, you could say usually on the weekends, Friday, it rolled all through the weekend, stuff like this. But this day and time, you never know.
Just in mind.
I mean, you could look at it, analyze it, and it can change on you. But I can tell you, in 43 years, I look forward to Monday through Thursday,
Right.
and then Friday, it rolled. So I really can't predict that. I just want to make sure that I prefer, and I think we talked about this, having that medical professional viewing that person from the very beginning on the front end. And like we talked about with EKG, we talked about this the other day, how much does it cost to do that? But if you did have to send someone out, you've already got a strip, you already got some information and short history on that person that you can get to the hospital to maybe help save a life or prevent something. That's sure. I'm going to back out of the medical side.
No.
She's a professional.
Stay up now, Commissioner Barrow.
We've just spent a lot of times out, and I just want to make sure that we're clear on what this proposal is.
Yes, sir.
It would be to have one nurse 24/7, and then an additional nurse that would be there 7 to 5. Is that correct?
So technically, if you look at it in general-wise, you would have 4 nurses working, 12-hour shifts, and then there's what we call an overlap nurse, which is usually the manager of the site, is usually working Monday through Friday. So that's 2 nurses on Monday through Friday in the morning, and then you have 2 nurses that rotate shifts that work the evening shift.
So that would 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, based on what we're looking at, there would be a nurse in the jail.
On site.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay. With all the times that were being thrown out, I just wanted to be clear. Yeah.
So again, to clarify, in the evenings, it'd be 1 nurse,
Correct.
but during the day, it'd be 2 nurses, during the week.
Monday through Friday, yes.
Just understanding that you Narcan everybody, and apparently there's not a huge side effect to giving.
It should
But-
not unless someone's actually is allergic to the medication.
Yeah.
Okay, but if the Narcan actually shows improvement in the person, is that an indication that they were on some sort of opioid?
Potentially.
But, yeah.
Okay, all right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Any other questions, gentlemen?
Mr. Chair, I have just one clarification and one comment.
Yes, sir.
The comment to Commissioner Richardson, we do have a separate mental health provider, and that's Daymark. Daymark provides those services in the jail. And clarification to Vice Chair Powell, I think in the meeting that we discussed about this program, that it could be a nurse or a paramedic. So it's not necessarily a nurse 24 hours a day. It could be a nurse or paramedic.
Sure, that's fine.
Medical professional. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Yeah, the point's my question was, and I'm very much aware of our mental health professionals, but they don't hang out in the jail. And no matter who the medical professional is that you have on staff and are paying, if they're not there. And that leaves it up to your company and to the sheriff and his staff to best allocate these folks' time and try not to have those gaps. It's almost impossible to have a gap, not to have a gap of some length of time, be it a minute or 2, it could be hours. And the mental health professionals that we do have and are part of the ongoing service within this county are going to require some amount of time to respond on that. And so there's no need quizzing you more on that. The validity and the utility of what is being proposed here, what's in your letter, is how well you apply it, how well you keep those folks, those professionals available to do the job that we've hired them to do. And no amount of questioning we do or anybody else can do it. It's going to happen on a day-to-day or an hourly basis out there. So that was my point, and I did not want to denigrate the marvelous mental health professionals we have hired within the county.
Commissioner Barrow.
Just to maybe give some peace of mind to Commissioner Richardson, Colonel Smith, I'm sorry to bother you, but could you just give us a quick overview of what the Daymark schedule is? I know we had talked in the Rockingham County Recovers meeting the other night that one of our providers is currently out at the moment, but could you just give a brief overview of how often and how long they're there?
Thank you. That's correct. They have budgeted for 2 professionals to be coming into the jail Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. Have had one out for almost 2 months, so there's been one doing that work. But spoke with Daymark Wednesday night, and they are looking to add to that, to get that other position filled. They've got one that's been out of work, so either get him replaced or add an additional as well.
Thank you, Colonel Smith.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I guess the other thing to add with the timing of this letter coming in, it's after our budget has been developed. So the question will be is how can we fund this? Where can we pull these funds from? And Sheriff, coming with your recommendation, I'll ask you, do you have anything to offer that we can look to pull these funds from?
I come back to the same conversation, is $87,000. I look what reserves we have in our canteen account. Again, it goes back to the original intent for those monies was what's the best interest of the inmates, and I think this is a good application, at least for this year. At least we can get us through this year, and then we can look at next year. But at least we can get a start moving in that right direction, so we all have a peace of mind that we're doing the right thing.
Thank you, Sheriff. Gentlemen, any questions? With that, we'll entertain a motion if somebody wants to make a motion. Yes,
do have-
Commissioner Berger?
Yes. I mean, my understanding is those canteen funds, do we know how much is coming in each month from these movies and video games and stuff?
Mr. Burke, first I want to be clear.
Yes.
It's not just video games, it's also, you said it, educational.
That's
I
free,
just wanna
though.
be- I
That
just wanna
part's
be-
free.
Yeah, but there are educational pieces in there, but I did not ask the jail administrator to run that for me, but it does bring in, I'll just say, it does bring in some good revenues, but as far as my good and what your good is, I don't have that number, and I apologize.
Because I know it's like, I don't know, 250,000 minutes per month roughly that the inmates are on those devices on the entertainment end.
Sure.
So, okay, all right, thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, gentlemen.
Sheriff. Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a
Commissioner
motion to approve $87,651.20 from the canteen fund for these positions.
Barrow. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Very well. Thank you, gentlemen. We appreciate everyone being here. Yes, sir.
Thank you, County Manager and Attorney.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. We
Yes, sir.
appreciate you. Thank you.
With that,
Chris Elliott, a tremendous amount.
that's what I was getting ready to say. Chris has stepped out, but he's done a yeoman's job. We appreciate the efforts that he's put forth. And Sheriff, we appreciate you being willing to step up and update y'all's procedures and policies to get in compliance with the new requirements from our insurance company. Thank you, Southern Health, for being here today. We look forward to a good relationship with you guys as well. Thank y'all.
Thank you, deputies.
We will go to commissioner comments, and I'll start with Commissioner Barrow as usual.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to wish everybody a happy Independence Day coming up next week. Please be safe and make sure that you come home with as many fingers as you left with. Thank you very much.
Richardson.
I also would like to thank everybody for coming out and look forward to July the 4th. There are many activities out there, some of which involve fireworks and being out in the hot sun. In all cases, keep safety in mind and take care of your loved ones.
Commissioner Berger.
Just happy 4th of July. So it's happy Independence Day. Enjoy the holiday. Thank you.
Commissioner Powell.
I'd just like to say that we've now spent just short of $200,000, and we didn't have to go to the public for it. And yet, yeah, that's right.
Almost
And,
almost 300,000.
Almost 300,000.
And I do want to correct you. That is going to the public because those monies would have been used elsewhere, so now we're going to have to use our general fund to spend on things that this money would have been used for.
That's correct, but we didn't have to look at, well, of course, we didn't have the chance this year to look at raising the tax to cover this because it come out after our budget was approved. The other thing that I would like to say is that although the conversation surrounding this has been very uncomfortable, we have maybe shed enough light on this situation that we're beginning to take action to correct it. And we're going to have to do that in the coming months and the next year because insurance is something we can't do without, but we certainly don't want to pay the amount of money that we're paying now and have the steep deductibles. So I look forward to our board and the county working closer with the sheriff and making sure that the incidences there are reported properly, whatever that turns out to be. And I look forward to the insurance company meeting with the sheriff and Chris, the risk manager, to iron out those parameters that we will now be working within going forward. And thank all of you for being here today.
Thank you, Commissioner. Let me also caution everyone listening that we still have this potential looming over our heads with a $200,000 per claim. Guys, we got to be careful. Let's do what's right. As you said, as we update our procedures, do what we can to minimize that exposure to the taxpayer. We appreciate y'all's willingness to participate in this, and we just look forward to a good year. Everyone enjoy next week, the holiday week. And with that, I'll look forward to a motion to adjourn as soon as I let you know. Our next meeting is July 17th here in these chambers at 6:30. With that, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Is there a second? All in favor? Oh, wait.
I think it's July 15th, not the 17th.
Yes, it is the 15th. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, I was reading. I apologize. Okay. July 15th, that's Monday. So thank you for that correction. Do we have a motion to adjourn and a second?
Second.
Motion.
All right, all in favor? Aye. Thank you, we're adjourned. Thank you.